The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but Captain Lee Hyunwoo barely noticed. His eyes stayed fixed on the main display screen in the Earth United Defense Command monitoring station. Numbers and data streams flowed across the screen like a digital waterfall. Most days, the station picked up nothing more interesting than solar radiation reports or routine cargo ship transmissions. Today was different. The first hint came at 0347 hours when sensor operator Kim detected an unusual energy signature from the direction of Proxima Centauri. The signal was weak, almost lost in the background noise of space, but it was artificial. Something intelligent had sent it. "Captain," called out Dr. Park Ji-min from her linguistic station. Her voice carried excitement mixed with concern. "I'm getting structured patterns in this transmission. This isn't random noise." Lee pushed back from his command chair and walked over to Park's workstation. The young linguist had been with the monitoring station for 3 years. She specialized in theoretical alien communication patterns, though until today it had been purely academic work. "Show me what you have," Lee said. Park's fingers danced across her keyboard, bringing up wave patterns and frequency analysis on her screen. "Look at these repetitions. The signal repeats every 4.7 minutes, but each repetition has slight variations. It's like someone is sending the same message over and over, but adding new information each time." Lee studied the patterns. Even without Park's expertise, he could see the organized structure. This was not natural phenomenon. This was a deliberate transmission from an intelligent source. "How long to decode it?" Lee asked. "That depends on how different their communication methods are from ours," Park replied. "Could be hours, could be days. But, Captain, there's something else. The signal is getting weaker." Lee felt a chill run down his spine. A weakening signal could mean the transmitter was failing. Or worse, it could mean whoever was sending it was dying. "Priority 1, Lee ordered. "Drop everything else. I want every available computing resource focused on breaking this signal." The next 6 hours passed like a blur. Park worked without rest, running the alien transmission through every decryption algorithm in the Earth Defense database. She tried mathematical approaches, linguistic patterns, even musical structures. The breakthrough came when she stopped thinking like a human. "Captain?" Park's voice cracked with exhaustion and excitement. "I think I have something." Lee rushed back to her station. On Park's screen, blocks of text appeared in English translation, though the grammar was strange and the word choices unusual. "People of distant stars, we send this message in our final hours. We are called Vallani. Our world dies under the weapons of the Krogar Empire. They came without warning. They showed no mercy. Our cities burn. Our people suffer." Lee read the words twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. First contact with an alien species, and it was a cry for help. Park continued reading the translation aloud. "We know of others like you in the far systems. We have watched your radio signals. You build ships that sail between stars. You might hear this message. Please know that the Krogar will not stop with us. They hunger for conquest. They seek to enslave all who are weaker than themselves." The message continued with technical details about the Krogar fleet composition and weapons. The Vallani had been studying their attackers even as their world was being destroyed. The final part of the message contained star charts and coordinates. "Warning. To all who hear this," Park read, "the Krogar move toward the small yellow star where your signals originate. Prepare yourselves. Do not let them catch you unprepared as they did us. We die, but our warning lives in this signal." Silence filled the monitoring station. Every technician and operator had stopped their work to listen. Lee felt anger building in his chest like a physical heat. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was being wiped out by aggressive conquerors who were already planning their next target. Earth. Lee activated his emergency communication system. "This is Monitoring Station Alpha calling Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha override. I need immediate connection to Admiral Kim Tae-ho." The response came back within minutes. Admiral Kim's face appeared on Lee's screen, showing signs that he had been woken from sleep. But when Lee explained the situation and transmitted the decoded message, all signs of tiredness vanished from the Admiral's features. "You're certain this is legitimate?" Admiral Kim asked after reviewing the translation. Dr. Park verified the mathematical and linguistic structures. "The star charts match our astronomical data perfectly. The Krogar fleet positions correlate with gravitational anomalies our deep space sensors detected last week. Sir, this is real." Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment. In the background, Lee could hear other voices as the Admiral's staff was called to emergency session. "Captain Lee, I want you to maintain constant monitoring of that signal. Record everything. Dr. Park, I'm sending a team of xenolinguistics experts to assist you. Get me every piece of information you can extract from that transmission." "Yes, sir," Lee and Park replied together. "One more thing," Admiral Kim added. "This information is classified at the highest level until further notice. No one outside your current team learns about this until the Council decides how to proceed." The connection ended, leaving Lee staring at a blank screen. Around him, his team continued working with renewed intensity. They all understood they were living through a moment that would change human history forever. Park looked up from her translation work. "Captain, I'm detecting new elements in the signal. The Vallani are still transmitting. They're sending technical specifications for Krogar weapons and ship designs." Lee nodded grimly. Even as their world burned around them, the Vallani were thinking about other species who might face the same threat. They were sharing intelligence that could save lives on worlds they would never see. "Keep working," Lee told his team. "Every piece of information could be vital." As the hours passed, more details emerged from the Vallani transmission. The Krogar Empire had conquered dozens of species over the past century. They used overwhelming force and showed no mercy to those who resisted. They enslaved survivors and stripped conquered worlds of resources before moving on to the next target. The Vallani had fought bravely, but their peaceful civilization had no chance against the Krogar war machine. Their final act was this warning signal, broadcast into space in hopes that someone, somewhere, would receive it and be better prepared. Lee watched the sun rise through the monitoring station's windows. Somewhere out in space, an alien species was dying while trying to save others. The message was clear. The Krogar Empire was a threat to all life in the galaxy. The only question now was what humanity would do about it. The coffee machine hummed to life as the morning shift began arriving. Lee poured a fresh cup and returned to his station. The Vallani signal continued transmitting, growing weaker with each repetition. Soon their voices would be silenced forever, but their warning had been heard. The emergency session began at dawn in Geneva. President Choi Soo-jin had called representatives from every nation on Earth to the United Council chambers. The building, normally buzzing with routine diplomatic business, now hummed with urgent tension. President Choi stood at the center of the circular chamber, her face grave as she addressed the assembled delegates. She had been awake for 18 hours straight since receiving Admiral Kim's report about the alien distress signal. Fellow representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. We face a decision that will define humanity's place in the galaxy. What you are about to hear will change everything we thought we knew about our universe. Intelligence Director Yoon Dae-sung stepped forward, carrying a secure data tablet. His intelligence service had worked through the night to verify and analyze every detail of the Vellani transmission. 12 hours ago, our monitoring stations received a distress signal from an alien civilization, Yoon announced. The species calls themselves the Vellani. Their homeworld in the Proxima Centauri system is under attack by a militaristic empire known as the Krogar. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward in their seats. The Brazilian representative raised her hand. Director Yoon, how can we be certain this transmission is authentic? Could this be some kind of elaborate hoax? Yoon activated the chamber's main display screen. Star charts and technical data filled the massive screen overhead. Our xenolinguistics teams have analyzed the communication patterns. The mathematical structures are consistent with a non-human intelligence. The astronomical data in their star charts matches our deep space observations perfectly. Most importantly, our gravitational sensors have detected fleet movements in the Proxima system that match exactly what the Vellani described. The German delegate spoke up. What exactly are the Vellani telling us? Yoon pressed another control and translated text appeared on the screen. They are warning us. The Krogar Empire has been conquering peaceful civilizations for over a century. They enslave survivors and strip worlds of resources. According to Vellani intelligence, the Krogar have already identified Earth as their next target. A chill seemed to settle over the chamber. President Choi watched as the reality of the situation sank in among the representatives. General Han Min-soo, commander of Earth's Strategic Defense Forces, stood to address the assembly. The Vellani transmission included detailed intelligence about Krogar military capabilities, their fleet composition, weapon systems, and tactical doctrine. This intelligence suggests they rely on overwhelming force against technologically inferior opponents. Are we technologically inferior? Asked the Japanese representative. General Han consulted his tablet. Our analysis suggests we are roughly equal in most areas, superior in some. Our weapons technology, particularly our kinetic bombardment systems, and plasma cannons appear more advanced than Krogar equivalents. Our ship designs prioritize speed and maneuverability over the Krogar preference for heavy armor and brute force. The Russian delegate crossed his arms. Even if we could match them militarily, why should Earth involve itself in an alien conflict? We have no obligation to these Vellani. President Choi had expected this question. Because, Representative Volkov, the Krogar are already planning to attack us next. This is not about helping strangers. This is about preventing genocide and protecting Earth. Intelligence Director Yoon brought up new data on the screen. Our deep space monitoring has detected Krogar scout ships at the edge of our solar system. They have been observing us for at least 6 months. The Vellani transmission confirms that Earth is marked as Target Designation 7 in their conquest schedule. The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Representatives turned to each other, speaking in rapid, worried tones in dozens of languages. President. Choi raised her hand for silence. We have 3 options. First, we wait and hope the Krogar lose interest. Our intelligence suggests this is unlikely. Second, we begin immediate preparations to defend Earth when they arrive. Third, we take the fight to them now, while they are engaged with the Vellani. You are suggesting we attack first? The British representative looked shocked. General Han stepped forward again. Not attack. Intervene. The Krogar are committing genocide against the Vellani right now. Every hour we delay, more innocent lives are lost. If we act immediately, we catch the Krogar fleet engaged in siege operations. They would be unprepared for our arrival." The Indian delegate raised her hand. "General, what would such an intervention require?" "Full fleet mobilization. Every combat-capable ship humanity possesses. Our war colleges estimate we would need at least 800 vessels to ensure victory against the Krogar fleet currently besieging the Volani world." 800 ships? The Canadian representative whistled softly. "That is our entire military space force." "Yes," General Han replied. "This would be the largest military operation in human history." President Choi walked to the center of the chamber. "Representatives, I will not hide the risks from you. This operation would commit every military resource we have. If we fail, Earth would be defenseless against any follow-up attack. But if we succeed, we send a clear message to the galaxy that humanity will not tolerate genocide and conquest." The French representative stood. "Madame President, some might say this is not our fight. Why should human soldiers die for aliens we have never met?" "Because it is the right thing to do," President Choi replied simply. "The Volani are dying while trying to warn us about the threat we all face. They could have fled or surrendered, but they chose to keep fighting and broadcasting warnings to other species. That kind of courage deserves our respect and our support." Intelligence Director Yoon added more information. "Our analysis of Krogar behavior patterns suggests they will not stop with Earth. They seek to dominate this entire region of the galaxy. Every species they conquer makes them stronger for the next conquest. If we do not stop them now, we may never get another chance." The debate continued for 2 more hours. Representatives asked detailed questions about military capabilities, logistics, and potential consequences. General Han presented fleet deployment strategies. Intelligence Director Yoon shared everything known about Krogar tactics and technology. Finally, President Choi called for the vote. All those in favor of immediate military intervention to aid the Volani and eliminate the Krogar threat? Hands rose throughout the chamber. President Choi counted carefully. When she finished, she announced the result. The motion passes unanimously. The Earth United Council authorizes Protocol Omega, full military mobilization for immediate intervention, in the Proxima Centauri system. The chamber erupted in applause, but President Choi felt no celebration. She had just committed humanity to its first interstellar war. The next few days would determine whether Earth emerged as a galactic power or whether this decision led to humanity's destruction. "General Han," she said, "how quickly can our fleets be ready?" 48 hours for full assembly, Madam President. Admiral Kim is already beginning preliminary mobilization. Then we have 48 hours to prepare for the most important battle in human history, President Choi declared. "God help us all." As representatives filed out of the chamber to contact their governments, President Choi remained behind, staring at the star charts still displayed overhead. Somewhere out there, the Volani were fighting and dying while humanity prepared to answer their call for help. The die was cast. Earth was going to war. The Luna naval shipyards had never seen anything like it. Fleet Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the observation deck of the command station, watching the largest military mobilization in human history unfold before his eyes. Ships that had been scattered across the solar system for routine patrol and training missions were converging on the moon's orbital facilities. "Admiral," called Captain Oh Shung-min from the communications station, "the Pacific Fleet reports full assembly complete. Admiral Song Jae-won sends his compliments and readiness confirmation." Kim nodded. making another mark on his status board. The Pacific Fleet was the largest of Earth's naval forces, consisting of 180 ships including the massive dreadnought Rising Sun and 3 fleet carriers. Admiral Song had managed to gather his scattered vessels in record time. "What about the Atlantic Fleet?" Kim asked. "Admiral Kang Yunji reports 80% assembly complete," Oh replied. "Her remaining vessels will arrive within 6 hours." Kim walked along the observation windows, studying the impressive sight outside. Hundreds of ships hung in space around Luna, their running lights creating a constellation of human engineering. Heavy cruisers sat next to nimble destroyers. Massive supply vessels dwarfed sleek reconnaissance ships. Fighter squadrons practiced formation flying between the larger vessels. The scope of the mobilization was staggering. Every combat-capable ship in Earth's inventory had been called up. Reserve vessels that had been mothballed were being rushed back into service. Civilian cargo ships were being converted to supply and support roles. "Sir," Oh continued, "we have confirmation from Mars Defense Platform. Admiral Park Kyung-ho reports the Martian Defense Fleet is beginning departure sequence. Estimated arrival at Luna in 18 hours. "And the Titan Strike Force? Commander Lee assembles the experimental vessels as we speak. The new Plasma Lance cruisers completed their trials ahead of schedule." Kim felt a mixture of pride and concern as he watched the fleet grow. These ships represented the pinnacle of human technology and the dedication of millions of people who had built them. But they had never been tested in real combat against an alien enemy. A new voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Kim, this is Admiral Song Jae-won aboard Rising Sun. Permission to come aboard for final briefing?" "Permission granted, Admiral. We convene in Conference Room Alpha in 1 hour." Kim turned away from the observation windows and headed for the briefing room. In 1 hour, he would meet with all 5 fleet commanders to finalize their battle plan. The weight of command settled heavily on his shoulders. The decisions made in that room would determine the fate of not just the human fleet, but potentially the entire human species. The briefing room filled quickly as the senior commanders arrived. Admiral Song Jae-won of the Pacific Fleet entered. First, a veteran of 20 years' service who had commanded ships in the asteroid belt conflicts. Admiral Kang Eun-ji followed, the youngest fleet commander in Earth history, but with a brilliant tactical mind that had earned her rapid promotion. Admiral Park Kyung-ho arrived via secure video link from Mars, his weathered face showing the strain of preparing his fleet for immediate departure. Commander Lee Yu-jin, leader of the experimental Titan Strike Force, appeared confident despite commanding vessels that had barely finished their testing phases. "Gentlemen and ladies," Kim began, activating the room's main display, "in 36 hours, we will jump to the Proxima Centauri system for humanity's first interstellar military operation. I want to review our final numbers and deployment strategy." The display showed fleet composition data. Kim read the numbers aloud, still, hardly believing the scale of the force they had assembled. Total vessels, 847 ships across all classes. Personnel, 2.3 million men and women. Heavy ships include 23 dreadnoughts, 45 heavy cruisers, and 12 fleet carriers. We have 156 destroyers, 89 frigates, and 234 support vessels of various types. Admiral Song leaned forward. "Admiral, our intelligence on Krogar fleet strength suggests they have approximately 400 ships besieging the Volani homeworld. We will have significant numerical superiority." "Numbers are not everything," Admiral Kang warned. "The Krogar have been fighting wars for a century. Their crews are experienced in combat. Most of our people have never fired a shot in anger." Commander Lee spoke up from the video link. Ma'am, our technological analysis suggests we have significant advantages in several areas. Our plasma cannon technology appears far superior to their energy weapons. Our kinetic bombardment systems can penetrate their known armor configurations. Kim brought up tactical displays showing ship designs and weapon specifications. The Krogar build for brute force. Heavy armor, massive ships, overwhelming firepower. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable. We will use those advantages. Admiral, Park's image flickered on the communication screen. What about their fleet formations? Do we know how they deploy for battle? Limited intelligence from the Villani suggests they prefer frontal assault tactics, Kim replied. They arrange their heaviest ships in a wall formation and advance directly toward their targets. It has worked against every species they have conquered so far. It will not work against us, Admiral Song said grimly. Our ships can outmaneuver. Their formations. We can strike their flanks while staying out of range of their heaviest weapons. Kim activated another display showing their battle plan. Here is our deployment strategy. Admiral Song, your Pacific Fleet will jump in first, engaging the Krogar main battle line and drawing their attention. Admiral Kang, your Atlantic Fleet will jump in 30 minutes later, striking their left flank. The Martian Defense Fleet will target their support vessels, Admiral Park confirmed. Cut off their supply lines and reinforcements. Correct. Commander Lee, your Titan strike force will be our surprise element. The new plasma lance cruisers will target their command ships. If we can disrupt their command structure early, their coordination will collapse. The commanders studied the plan carefully, asking questions about timing, communication protocols, and contingency procedures. Kim was impressed by their professionalism and attention to detail. These officers had spent their careers preparing for battles they hoped would never come. One final matter, Kim said seriously. We are going into battle to save the Villani, people from genocide. But make no mistake, this operation is also about protecting Earth. The Krogar have identified our world as their next target. We fight them now, on our terms, or we fight them later when they arrive at Earth with their full strength. Admiral Kang nodded. My crew understands the stakes, Admiral. We will not let humanity down. None of us will, Admiral Song added. Our people have worked for generations to build these ships and train these crews. Today we find out if our preparations were sufficient. Kim stood, and the other commanders rose with him. Ladies and gentlemen, in 36 hours we make history. Humanity goes to war among the stars for the first time. Our ancestors who looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there could never have imagined this moment. They would be proud, Commander Lee said quietly. Yes, Kim agreed. They would be proud. Now return to your fleets, make final preparations, check every system, brief every crew member, and prepare for battle. The Krogar Empire is about to learn that. Humanity does not tolerate genocide. The commanders saluted and departed, leaving Kim alone in the briefing room. Through the windows he could see the assembled fleet stretching to the horizon. Hundreds of ships filled with millions of people, all trusting his leadership to bring them safely through the coming battle. Kim walked to the observation window and pressed his palm against the cool glass. Somewhere beyond the stars, an alien species was dying while trying to warn others about the threat they all faced. In 36 hours, humanity would answer that call. The greatest fleet in human history was ready for war. The FTL transit corridor stretched through space like a tunnel made of twisted light and impossible geometry. Captain Bae Young-soo stood on the bridge of the intelligence ship Silent Hunter, watching the swirling colors outside the viewports. that marked humanity's passage between the stars. Transit time to Proxima Centauri, 14 hours, 37 minutes, reported Navigation Officer Kim at his station. The massive human fleet moved through faster-than-light space in perfect formation, hundreds of ships maintaining precise distances despite traveling through dimensions that normal physics could not explain. Bay walked to the central holographic display table where detailed intelligence about their target system appeared in three-dimensional detail. The Krogar fleet positions, updated by the last Volani transmission before their signal went silent, showed enemy ships arranged in a siege formation around the alien homeworld. Commander Lim Hae-jin, Bay called to his communications officer. "Any luck raising the Volani?" Lim shook her head sadly. "No response for the past 18 hours, sir. Either their transmitters have been destroyed or—" She left the sentence unfinished, but everyone on the bridge understood. The Volani might already be dead. Lieutenant Park Dong-hyun looked up from his tactical analysis station. "Captain, I have completed the final assessment of Krogar fleet, capabilities based on Volani intelligence." "What do you have for me, Lieutenant?" Park activated the holographic display, showing detailed ship designs and weapon specifications. The Krogar fleet consists of approximately 380 vessels. Their largest ships are what they call Dominion dreadnoughts, massive vessels over 2 kilometers long with extremely heavy armor and multiple weapon batteries. Bay studied the enemy ship designs. The Krogar vessels looked brutally functional, with angular hulls covered in weapon ports and armor plating. No artistic flourishes or elegant curves. These ships existed purely to destroy and conquer. Their weapons are primarily plasma-based energy cannons and missile systems, Park continued. However, their plasma technology appears to be at least 50 years behind our current capabilities. Their missiles use chemical propulsion rather than our fusion drives. What about their armor? Extremely thick, but composed of relatively primitive alloys. Our kinetic penetrator rounds should pierce their heaviest armor with no difficulty. Their energy shields are also limited. They appear to be designed to stop energy weapons, but would be ineffective against our kinetic bombardment systems. Commander, Lim spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving tactical updates from the flagship. Admiral Kim wants to brief all senior officers on final operational details." Bay nodded. "Put him through." Admiral Kim's face appeared on the main communication screen. Behind him, Bay could see the bustling activity of the Fleet Command Center aboard the massive dreadnought Korea's Pride. "Captains," Admiral Kim began, "we will drop out of FTL at the edge of the Proxima system in 12 hours. Long-range sensors. We'll immediately begin scanning for Krogar fleet positions and any signs of Volani survival." The Admiral brought up a star chart showing their planned approach. "We will maintain communication silence until we have full intelligence on the tactical situation. I want no transmissions that might alert the Krogar to our presence before. We are ready to engage." "Sir," asked Captain O from the heavy cruiser Thunder Mountain, "what are our rules of engagement?" Admiral Kim's expression hardened. "The Krogar fired on our diplomatic vessels without provocation. They are committing genocide against the Volani people. They have declared their intention to conquer Earth. There will be no mercy. We destroy their fleet completely." A murmur of approval rippled through the communication channel. Every captain and crew member understood they were fighting for the survival of not just the Volani, but potentially all life in the galaxy that valued freedom and peace. "However," Admiral Kim continued, "if any Krogar vessels attempt to surrender, we will accept their surrender and treat prisoners according to galactic civilized standards. We are not like them. We do not massacre the defeated." Lieutenant Park raised his hand. "Admiral, What if we encounter Volani survivors? Immediate. Humanitarian aid and protection, Admiral Kim replied without hesitation. Our medical ships will tend to their wounded. Our marine units will provide security. The Volani are our allies in this fight, whether they know it or not. The briefing continued for another hour as Admiral Kim reviewed fleet formations, communication, protocols, and contingency plans. Bay was impressed by the thoroughness of the preparation. Despite fighting their first interstellar war, humanity was approaching the battle with characteristic attention to detail and tactical planning. Final point, Admiral Kim said as the briefing concluded. Remember why we are here. The Krogar Empire believes that strength gives them the right to conquer and enslave weaker peoples. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the galaxy that there are those who will stand against tyranny and genocide. The communication channel closed, leaving each ship to make final preparations. Bay walked among his crew stations, checking readiness reports and ensuring all systems were optimal. The Silent Hunter might not be a front-line combat vessel, but her intelligence-gathering capabilities would be crucial in the coming battle. Captain, called sensor operator Lee from his console, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies ahead. We're approaching the edge of the Proxima system. All stations prepare for FTL dropout, Bay announced. Throughout the ship, crew members secured equipment and took positions for the transition back to normal space. The swirling colors outside the viewports began to slow and stabilize. The impossible geometry of FTL space gradually resolved into the familiar star patterns of normal space-time. Bay felt the slight disorientation that always accompanied FTL transition. Then his equilibrium returned. FTL dropout complete, Navigation Officer Kim reported. We are at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Long-range sensors active, added Lieutenant Park. Beginning system scan. Bay moved to the sensor station and watched as data began flowing across the displays. The Proxima system appeared on their screens, a red dwarf star with several planets, including the blue-green world that had been home to the Volani civilization. Contact, Park announced grimly. Krogar fleet detected in orbit around the third planet. Confirmed 380-plus vessels in siege formation. Any sign of Volani resistance? Park worked at his console for several minutes before answering. Negative, sir. No active Volani vessels detected. The planet shows massive energy signatures consistent with ongoing bombardment. Bay felt anger building in his chest. They had arrived too late to save the Volani military, but perhaps civilian populations could still be rescued. Open channel to Admiral Kim, Bay ordered. Channel open, sir. Admiral, this is Captain Bay. Long-range sensors confirm Krogar fleet positions. Match Volani intelligence reports. No active resistance detected from Volani forces. The enemy appears to be conducting orbital bombardment of population centers. Admiral Kim's voice came back immediately. Understood, Captain. Continue monitoring. All fleet commanders, implement. Final approach formation. We go in fast and hard. Bay watched as hundreds of human ships began moving into attack formation. The most powerful fleet humanity had ever assembled was about to engage in battle for the first time. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, gathering intelligence that would help their fellow humans strike effectively against the Krogar forces. Sir, Lieutenant Park said quietly, long-range scans show large areas of the Volani homeworld are still intact. There may be millions of survivors down there. Then we make sure they live to see tomorrow, Bay replied. All stations. Battle alert, we are going to war. The human fleet hung at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system like a constellation of deadly stars. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the flagship Korea's Pride, studying the tactical display that showed the Krogar fleet arranged around the besieged Volani homeworld. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Yoon, "we have a clear view of the enemy formation. The Krogar have positioned their heaviest ships in a bombardment line. They are conducting systematic destruction of population centers on the planet's surface." Admiral Kim watched the display with growing anger. Energy readings showed constant weapons fire directed at the planet below. The Krogar were not just conquering the Volani. They were exterminating them. "Any response to our long-range scans?" Kim asked. "Negative, sir. The Krogar appear focused on their bombardment operations. They have not detected our presence." Kim nodded. The human fleet had dropped out of FTL at maximum sensor range, using their advanced stealth systems to remain undetected. They had the advantage of surprise, but Kim knew that diplomatic protocol required attempting peaceful contact before opening fire. "Captain Shin Bo Ram," Kim called to the diplomatic vessel Peacebringer, "you are authorized to make contact with the Krogar fleet. Transmit on all standard frequencies." Captain Shin's face appeared on the communication screen. The diplomatic corps officer looked nervous but determined. "Understood, Admiral. Beginning transmission now." Kim listened as Captain Shin broadcast humanity's first official communication to an alien species. Her voice was calm and professional despite the circumstances. "Krogar Fleet, this is Captain Shin Bo Ram of the Earth United Defense Force representing the human species. We have received distress signals from the Volani people. We demand an immediate cessation of hostilities and the withdrawal of your forces from this system." The transmission was sent in multiple languages and mathematical formats, ensuring the Krogar would be able to understand the message regardless of their communication methods. Captain Shin waited 60 seconds, then repeated the message. "Any response?" Admiral Kim asked. "Negative, sir. The Krogar fleet maintains bombardment operations. They are ignoring our communication attempts." Kim frowned. Either the Krogar had not received the message, or they were choosing not to respond. He decided to try a different approach. "Captain Shin," transmit again. "This time, make it clear that we are willing to discuss terms for Volani evacuation and Krogar withdrawal." Captain Shin nodded and began a new transmission. "Krogar Fleet, we understand you may have legitimate grievances with the Volani people. We are prepared to negotiate a peaceful resolution that addresses your concerns while preventing further civilian casualties." Again, 60 seconds passed with no response from the Krogar fleet. "Sir," called out Tactical Officer Nam from his station, "the Krogar fleet is changing formation. Several ships are moving to investigate something." "Investigate what?" "Unknown, sir. Wait, Admiral, I'm detecting weapons lock signals. The Krogar are targeting the Peacebringer." Kim felt ice form in his stomach. "Captain Shin, evasive maneuvers. All ships battle alert." On the tactical display, Kim watched in horror as multiple Krogar vessels turned their weapons toward the small diplomatic ship. Captain Shin's vessel was fast and maneuverable, but it was not designed for combat. "Incoming fire!" Nam shouted. The Krogar response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of energy beams lanced through space toward the Peacebringer. Captain Shin's pilot threw the ship into emergency evasive maneuvers, but the Krogar had fired with deadly precision. The first energy beam struck the diplomatic vessel's port engine, sending the ship spinning out of control. The second beam punched through the hull amidships. The third beam hit the ship's reactor section, and the Peacebringer disappeared in a brilliant explosion. Silence filled the bridge of the flagship. Admiral Kim stared at the expanding debris field where Captain Shin and her crew had been just moments before. 43 people killed while attempting peaceful contact. "Sir," Communications Officer Yoon said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the Krogar fleet. Put it through." A harsh, alien voice filled the bridge speakers. The words were translated by the ship's computer systems, but the meaning was unmistakably hostile. "Unknown vessels, you have entered Krogar space without permission. Your feeble attempt at interference is noted and rejected. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The Vellani world belongs to the Krogar Empire now." Admiral Kim felt white-hot rage building in his chest. The Krogar had murdered a diplomatic mission without provocation. They had shown contempt for every civilized standard of conduct between species. "Tactical Officer Nam," Kim said, his voice deadly calm. "Combat alert throughout the fleet. All ships prepare for immediate engagement." "Sir," Nam replied, "the fleet reports ready for battle." Kim walked to the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing humanity's most powerful weapons for war. "Open channel to all fleet commanders," Kim ordered. "Channel open, sir." Admiral Kim's voice carried to every ship in the human fleet, reaching 2.3 million men and women who had traveled across the galaxy to fight for justice and freedom. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim. The Krogar have fired on our diplomatic vessel, without provocation. Captain Shin and her crew died while attempting peaceful contact. The enemy has chosen violence over negotiation. They have chosen war over peace." Kim paused, letting his words sink in throughout the fleet. "The Krogar Empire believes that strength gives them the right to conquer and enslave innocent peoples. They believe that superior firepower justifies genocide. Today, we prove them wrong." On the tactical display, Kim could see the human fleet moving into attack formation. Hundreds of ships arranged themselves with mathematical precision, every captain and crew member understanding their role in the coming battle. For Captain Shin and her crew, for the Vellani people, for every species threatened by Krogar tyranny, for Earth and humanity, all ships advance and engage. Show them what human wrath looks like. The human fleet surged forward like an avalanche of steel and fire. The largest military force in human history accelerated toward the Krogar siege formation, weapons powered and targeting systems locked onto enemy vessels. Admiral Kim watched the tactical display as the distance closed between the two fleets. The Krogar had superior numbers around their immediate position, but they were spread out in bombardment formation. The humans were concentrated and moving fast. "Time to weapons." "Range?" Kim asked. 4 minutes, sir," Nam replied. "Signal all ships. Engage at will upon entering range. Priority targets are command vessels and heavy bombardment ships." Kim felt the flagship's massive engines vibrating through the deck plates as the ship accelerated toward battle. Around him, his bridge crew worked with calm professionalism despite facing their first combat against an alien enemy. "Sir," Communications Officer Yoon reported, "the Krogar fleet is attempting to reform into battle line. They appear surprised by our numbers and approach speed. They expected us to withdraw after their show of force," Kim said grimly. "They are about to learn that humans do not intimidate easily." On the view screen, Kim could now see individual Krogar ships with the naked eye. The alien vessels looked exactly as brutal and functional as their intelligence reports had suggested. Massive, angular ships bristling with weapons and armor. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, Nam announced. Admiral Kim gripped the railing of his command platform. In 30 seconds, humanity would fire its first shots in interstellar warfare. The outcome of this battle would determine not just the fate of the Villani survivors, but potentially the future of all free peoples in the galaxy. "All ships," Kim announced on the fleet channel. "Fire when ready. Destroy them all." The first human weapons fired at exactly 14:23 ship time. Captain Ryu Sunho led the initial strike from his fighter squadron, diving toward the Krogar battle line in sleek interceptors that moved like deadly arrows through space. "Fox Squadron, target the lead Krogar dreadnought," Ryu commanded over the squadron channel. "Hit their weapon ports and engine sections." 24 human fighters accelerated past the speed of sound, their fusion-powered engines leaving brilliant trails in space. The Krogar had never faced opponents who could move this fast. Their massive gun turrets tried to track the incoming fighters but could not rotate quickly enough. Ryu locked onto his target and fired. Twin plasma bolts lanced from his fighters' guns, striking the Krogar dreadnought's forward weapon array. Explosions bloomed along the alien ship's hull as secondary systems overloaded. "Direct hit," called out Lieutenant Park from Fighter 7. "Their forward guns are offline." Behind the fighter squadrons, Admiral Song Jae-won's Pacific Fleet opened fire with their heavy weapons. The dreadnought Rising Sun unleashed a full broadside from its kinetic bombardment cannons. Massive tungsten penetrator rounds accelerated to a fraction of light speed, slammed into Krogar heavy cruisers. The alien ships had never faced kinetic weapons of such power. Their energy shields, designed to deflect plasma beams, were useless. Against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds, the first Krogar heavy cruiser broke apart as penetrator rounds punched through its hull from bow to stern. "Target destroyed," reported Weapons Officer Jang Mi-young from her station aboard. "Rising Sun, moving to secondary target." Admiral Song watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet's technological advantages were proving decisive. Krogar ships that had terrorized dozens of species were being destroyed with surgical precision. "All ships, maintain formation and continue the advance," Song commanded. "Do not let them regroup." The Atlantic Fleet, under Admiral Kang Eun-ji, struck the Krogar left flank like a hammer blow. Her ships had approached from a different vector, catching the enemy formation while it was still trying to respond to the Pacific Fleet's assault. "Fire. Plasma cannons," Admiral Kang ordered from the bridge of her flagship Liberty's Edge. "Target their command ships." The human plasma cannon technology was 50 years more advanced than anything the Krogar possessed. While alien plasma beams were diffuse and relatively weak, human plasma bolts maintained coherence and focus across vast distances. When they struck Krogar vessels, the results were devastating. A Krogar command ship tried to maneuver away from the incoming plasma fire, but its engines were too slow. 3 plasma bolts struck simultaneously, overloading the alien ship's power systems and causing cascading failures throughout its hull. The ship went dark and began drifting helplessly through space. "Command ship neutralized," reported Commander Yu from the weapons station. "Their fleet coordination is breaking down." Captain Nam Ki-tae commanded the heavy cruiser Thunder at the center of the human battle line. His ship was equipped with the latest fusion torpedo systems, weapons that could crack open even the heaviest Krogar armor. "Target the enemy flagship," Nam ordered his weapons crew. Full torpedo spread. 6 fusion torpedoes launched from Thunder's torpedo tubes, accelerating toward the massive Krogar dreadnought that served as the enemy fleet's command center. The alien ship's defensive systems tried to intercept the incoming weapons, but human torpedo guidance systems were too sophisticated to be easily fooled. The first torpedo struck the Krogar flagship's shield generators, overloading them completely. The second and third torpedoes punched through the ship's armor belt, detonating inside the hull. The fourth torpedo hit the engine section, causing a massive explosion that left the ship dead in space. Enemy flagship crippled, Nam reported. To Admiral Kim, their fleet is losing cohesion. From his command position aboard Korea's Pride, Admiral Kim watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The Krogar fleet, which had seemed so powerful when bombarding defenseless Volani cities, was falling apart under human assault. Status. Report from all fleet commanders, Kim requested. Pacific Fleet reports 70% of assigned targets destroyed, came Admiral Song's voice. Atlantic Fleet has eliminated enemy left flank resistance, reported Admiral Kang. Martian Defense Fleet engaging enemy support vessels, added Admiral Park's transmission from his flagship. Their supply lines are cut. The Titan Strike Force, under Commander Lee Yu-jin, had saved their most advanced weapons for the perfect moment. The experimental plasma lance cruisers had never been tested in actual combat, but their targeting systems had locked onto the largest Krogar vessels. All plasma lance cruisers, fire on my mark, Commander Lee announced. Target coordinates transmitted. The plasma lance weapons were humanity's most powerful ship-mounted guns. They created focused beams of superheated matter that could cut through any known armor. When 6 plasma lances fired simultaneously at the same target, the result was spectacular. Krogar Super Dreadnought, over 3 kilometers long, was struck by all 6 beams at once. The concentrated plasma fire literally cut the massive ship in half. Both sections exploded as their reactor cores overloaded, creating a miniature star that briefly illuminated the entire battlefield. Incredible, whispered Tactical Officer Nam from his station aboard the flagship. Sir, the Krogar fleet is in full retreat. Admiral Kim studied the tactical display. The alien formation had completely collapsed. Ships that had not been destroyed were fleeing in all directions, abandoning their siege of the Volani homeworld. Do not let them escape, Kim commanded. All ships, pursue and destroy. I want every Krogar vessel eliminated, the human fleet scattered, in pursuit of the fleeing enemies. Fighter squadrons chased down Krogar cruisers. Heavy ships hunted the remaining alien dreadnoughts. The battle that had begun as an organized engagement devolved into a series of individual ship-to-ship combats scattered across the Proxima system. Captain Ryu Sunho's fighter squadron cornered a fleeing Krogar destroyer near the system's asteroid belt. The alien ship tried to hide among the rocks, but human sensors were too advanced to be fooled by such simple tactics. Target acquired, Ryu reported to his squadron. Beginning attack run. The Krogar destroyer was damaged and desperate. It fired wildly at the approaching fighters, but its weapons could not track targets moving at such high speed. Ryu's squadron attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, overwhelming the alien ship's defenses. Destroy their engines first, Ryu ordered. Leave them helpless. Plasma bolts from 24 fighters converged on the destroyer's engine section. Explosions rippled along the alien ship's hull as its propulsion systems failed. Dead in space, the destroyer was helpless as the fighters lined up for the killing blow. This is for Captain Shin and her crew, Ryu said quietly, then fired his remaining weapons. The Krogar destroyer broke apart under the concentrated fire, adding another victory to humanity's growing tally. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human forces hunted down the scattered remnants of the Krogar fleet. Ships that had terrorized peaceful civilizations for over a century were being systematically destroyed by opponents they had never expected to face. Admiral Kim received the final battle reports 3 hours after the engagement began. Of the 380 Kroger vessels that had been besieging the Volani homeworld, 371 had been completely destroyed. The remaining 9 ships had fled the system at maximum speed, too damaged to pose any further threat. Human losses were minimal: 6 fighters destroyed, 2 destroyers damaged, and 43 personnel killed aboard the diplomatic vessel that had started the battle. "Sir," Communications Officer Yoon reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface. Volani survivors are asking for assistance." Admiral Kim nodded. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Millions of Volani civilians needed rescue and medical care. Their world needed to be rebuilt, and the galaxy needed to understand that humanity would not tolerate genocide. "Signal all ships," Kim commanded. "Begin humanitarian operations immediately. Medical vessels to the planet's surface. Marine units prepare for peacekeeping deployment." The largest space battle in galactic history was over. Humanity had won its first interstellar war in less than 4 hours. The Krogar Empire, which had seemed invincible, had been utterly defeated by opponents they had dismissed as primitive. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had arrived among the stars, and they would not be ignored. The landing craft. Sol's thunder descended through the smoke-filled atmosphere of the Volani homeworld, its hull scarred by debris from the orbital battle above. Captain Lee Soo-jin gripped her command chair as the ship shook from atmospheric turbulence, leading the first human landing force to an alien world. "Captain," called out Pilot Officer Han from the cockpit, "I have visual on the landing zone. Krogar ground forces are retreating from the main population center." Lee activated her helmet display and studied the tactical information streaming from the ship's sensors. The Volani capital city showed massive damage from orbital bombardment, but large sections remained intact. Most importantly, her sensors detected thousands of life signs. Volani civilians who had survived the siege. "All squads, prepare for deployment," Lee announced to the marine companies aboard her landing craft. "Remember, our mission is to protect Volani civilians and eliminate remaining Krogar ground forces. Rules of engagement are weapons-free for any Krogar who do not surrender immediately." The landing craft touched down in a cleared area near the city center. Lee was the first human to step onto alien soil, her armored boots crunching on debris from destroyed buildings. Around her, 200 human Marines deployed in perfect formation, their weapons ready and their sensors scanning for threats. "Squad leaders report," Lee commanded through her communication system. "Alpha Squad deployed and advancing toward the government district," came the voice of Sergeant Park. "Beta Squad moving to secure the medical complex," reported Sergeant Kim. "Charlie Squad establishing perimeter around the landing zone," added. Sergeant Yoon Lee moved forward with Alpha Squad, her weapon raised but her finger off the trigger. The Volani were allies, not enemies, and she wanted to make sure her first contact with alien civilians sent the right message. The first Volani she encountered was a family huddled in the ruins of what had once been a residential building. The aliens were roughly humanoid, with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes. They looked terrified when they saw the approaching human soldiers. Lee raised her hands to show she meant no harm and activated her universal translator. "We are humans from Earth. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." The eldest Volani, who appeared to be the family patriarch, stepped forward cautiously. When he spoke, Lee's translator converted his words into understandable speech. You came? You heard our message?" "Yes," Lee replied. "We heard your warning about the Krogar. We came to stop them." "The Krogar fleet," the Volani asked. Hopefully. Destroyed, Lee said simply. Every ship. They will not hurt you anymore. The relief on the alien's face was unmistakable. He fell to his knees and began speaking rapidly in his own language. Lee's translator had difficulty keeping up, but she caught words like salvation and miracle. Medico Yunseo to the front, Lee called through her communication system. We have civilian casualties who need treatment. Medico moved forward with her medical kit, kneeling beside a young Volani who appeared to be injured. The alien child looked frightened at first, but Ko's gentle manner and careful treatment quickly put the family at ease. Their physiology is similar enough to humans that our medical techniques should work, Ko reported after her initial examination. This one has a broken arm from falling debris, but nothing life-threatening. As Lee's Marines moved deeper into the city, they encountered more Volani survivors. The aliens had hidden in underground shelters and reinforced buildings during the orbital bombardment. Now they were emerging to find their world damaged, but not destroyed, and their skies filled with human ships offering protection. Captain, called Sergeant Park from the government district, I have contact with Volani leadership. Their primary elder wants to speak with our commander. On my way, Lee replied. The Volani government building had taken direct hits from Krogar Orbital. Weapons, but the lower levels remained intact. Lee descended into what appeared to be a command bunker, where dozens of Volani officials were coordinating rescue operations for their people. The being who approached her was clearly ancient, even by Volani standards, with silver-streaked skin and eyes that held deep wisdom. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of authority. I am Veltar Nymus, primary elder of the Volani Council. You are the humans who answered our call? Captain Lee Soo-jin, Earth United Marine Corps. Lee replied with a respectful bow. We received your distress signal and came as quickly as we could. Our astronomers have been monitoring the battle in orbit, Veltar Nymus said. The Krogar fleet that besieged us for 6 months was destroyed in less than 4 hours. Your military capabilities are impressive, Lee sensed criticism in the elder's tone. We regret that we could not arrive sooner. Many of your people suffered because we did not know of your plight earlier. No, the elder said, shaking his head. You misunderstand. We are amazed not by your weapons, but by your willingness to use them for strangers. The Krogar have conquered dozens of species over the past century. No one has ever come to help the victims. Engineer Seo Jun-woo approached Lee from across the bunker. Captain, I've completed my initial survey of the city infrastructure. The power grid is damaged but repairable. Water treatment facilities are offline but can be restored. We can have basic services running within 72 hours. Do it, Lee ordered. Full engineering teams from the fleet. Priority is medical, facilities, then food distribution, then shelter for displaced civilians. Veltar Nymus listened to this exchange with growing amazement. You intend to help rebuild our world? Of course, Lee replied. That's what allies do for each other. Allies? The elder's large eyes widened. You consider us allies? You risked everything to warn us about the Krogar threat, Lee explained. Your people kept fighting and transmitting intelligence even as your world burned around you. That kind of courage and sacrifice makes you our allies. The Volani elder was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with emotion. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with gratitude. In all our history, we have never encountered a species like yours. The Krogar rule through fear and domination. Most spacefaring peoples we have observed are either conquerors or victims. But you traveled across the galaxy to fight genocide and protect strangers? Over the following days, the human fleet worked tirelessly to assist Volani recovery operations. Medical ships treated wounded civilians with advanced human technology. Engineering teams repaired damaged infrastructure using techniques unknown to Volani science. Marine units provided security while Volani communities began rebuilding their lives. Captain Lee established her command post in the restored government building, coordinating between human forces and Volani leadership. She was reviewing supply distribution reports when Veltar Nimus approached with urgent news. Captain Lee, our long-range communications have detected something remarkable. Word of your victory over the Krogar fleet is spreading throughout this region of the galaxy. We are receiving messages from dozens of species. What kind of messages? Lee asked. Congratulations, requests for alliance, offers of friendship and trade. For the first time in over a century, peaceful species feel safe enough to reveal themselves. Lee realized the implications immediately. The Krogar Empire had ruled through intimidation, keeping weaker species hidden and afraid. By destroying the Krogar fleet so decisively, humanity had sent a message throughout the galaxy that aggressive empires could be defeated. There is more, Veltar Nimus continued. We have also received communications from other Krogar subject worlds. Enslaved populations are rising in rebellion. The empire that seemed invincible just days ago is collapsing as its victims realize the Krogar can be beaten. Lee looked out through the government building's windows at the bustling activity in the streets below. Human soldiers worked alongside Volani civilians to clear debris and rebuild homes. Medical tents treated injured aliens with the same care given to human wounded. Engineering teams installed advanced power generators that would make the Volani capital more prosperous than it had ever been. Elder, Lee said thoughtfully. What happens now? Now, Veltar Nimus replied, the galaxy learns that there are those who will stand against tyranny. Now, species that have lived in fear for generations can hope for freedom. Now, the age of Krogar dominance comes to an end. As if to emphasize his words, a formation of human fighters roared overhead on patrol, their engines leaving brilliant contrails against the alien sky. The Volani civilians in the streets below looked up and waved, no longer seeing the fighters as foreign warships, but as symbols of protection and hope. Lee smiled as she watched the scene. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the Battle of Proxima, Ambassador Wu Hei-Rin stood in the newly constructed Galactic Relations Center on Luna, watching the most remarkable diplomatic gathering in human history unfold before her eyes. Representatives from 47 different alien species had traveled to Earth's solar system, each seeking alliance with the people who had ended the Krogar Empire's reign of terror. Ambassador, called Assistant Secretary Jin from across the diplomatic receiving hall, the Altarian delegation has arrived. They're requesting immediate audience regarding a mutual defense treaty. Wu nodded, adjusting her formal diplomatic robes. As Earth's first ambassador for alien relations, she faced the impossible task of establishing relationships with dozens of species simultaneously, each with their own customs, needs, and diplomatic protocols. Schedule them for tomorrow. Morning, Wu replied. Today we focus on the Krogar surrender ceremony. The irony was not lost on her. The mighty Krogar Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for over a century, was about to formally surrender to a species that had only achieved interstellar flight 50 years ago. The remaining Krogar worlds had sued for peace after their Military forces collapsed following the destruction of their main fleet. President Choi Soo-jin entered the receiving hall, accompanied by Admiral Kim Tae-ho, now bearing the newly created title of Supreme Fleet Commander. The president had aged visibly during the past months, bearing the weight of transforming humanity from a single world species into a galactic power. "Ambassador Wu," President Choi said warmly, "are we ready for the ceremony?" "As ready as we can be, Madame President. This is unprecedented in galactic history. No empire has ever surrendered so completely after a single military defeat." Admiral Kim moved to the large display screen showing fleet positions throughout the local galactic region. The psychological impact has been enormous. Species that suffered under Krogar rule for generations saw their oppressors defeated in 4 hours. Word has spread throughout this entire spiral arm. "What's the status of Krogar resistance?" President Choi asked. "Minimal," Admiral Kim replied. "Most Krogar military commanders have accepted the reality of their situation. Their subject peoples are in open rebellion. Their economy has collapsed without tribute from conquered worlds. They have no choice but to surrender." The main ceremonial hall had been designed to accommodate the vast variety of alien physiologies that would participate in galactic diplomacy. Environmental controls could adjust atmosphere, gravity, and lighting for dozens of different species simultaneously. Translation systems provided real-time communication in over 300 alien languages. Ambassador Wu took her position at the central podium as alien delegations filed into the hall. The Volani delegation, led by Elder Veltar Nemus, took places of honor near the front. They had become humanity's closest allies and strongest advocates in galactic affairs. The contrast between the various species was striking. The insectoid Zephyrians communicated through complex pheromone patterns. The crystalline resonance generated musical tones that conveyed meaning. The aquatic deep swimmers required specialized tanks to participate in the ceremony. "Distinguished representatives," Ambassador Wu began, her words simultaneously translated for every species present. "We gather today to witness the formal end of the Krogar Empire's aggression against peaceful civilizations." A section of the hall had been reserved for the Krogar delegation. The former conquerors looked defeated and diminished, their proud military bearing replaced by the posture of the vanquished. Their leader, War Commander Thekvar, stepped forward when called upon. "The Krogar Empire formally surrenders all claims to conquered territories," Thekvar announced in a voice that carried barely concealed anger. "We acknowledge the military superiority of the human species and accept the terms of unconditional surrender." The hall remained silent as the historic words echoed through the translation systems. President Choi rose from her seat and approached. "The podium! The Earth United Government accepts the Krogar surrender," she declared. "However, our terms are not conquest or revenge. We demand only that the Krogar cease all aggressive actions and allow their former subjects to choose their own destinies." Murmurs rippled through the alien delegations. They had expected humanity to claim Krogar territory and resources as spoils of war. Instead, the humans were offering freedom to enslaved worlds and mercy to their former enemies. War Commander Thekvar looked genuinely surprised. "You do not claim our worlds as your own?" "We are not conquerors," President Choi replied firmly. "We fight against oppression, not to create new oppression. Former Krogar subjects will govern themselves. Your remaining worlds will be given the opportunity to join the galactic community as equals, provided they renounce aggressive expansion." Elder Veltar Nemus stood to address the assembly. "Honored delegates, 3 months ago, my people faced extinction at Krogar hands. Today we are free because one species chose to risk everything to help strangers. This is the character of humanity. The Altarian representative, a tall being with golden fur and 4 arms, spoke next. The Altarian Republic offers formal alliance with Earth. Our shipyards and industrial facilities are at your disposal for the defense of peaceful worlds. The Resonant Collective pledges our advanced sensor technologies to the human fleet, chimed the crystalline delegate, its words creating a complex harmony in the hall's acoustics. One by one, alien species offered alliance, technology sharing, and mutual defense agreements. What had begun as a surrender ceremony was transforming into the founding of a new galactic order based on cooperation rather than conquest. Ambassador Wu found herself overwhelmed by the scope of what was happening. Humanity was being offered leadership of an interstellar alliance comprising hundreds of worlds and billions of beings. "Madam President," she whispered during a brief recess, "we're not prepared for this level of responsibility. We're talking about governing a significant portion of the galaxy." President Choi considered the situation carefully. "We're not governing anyone, Ambassador. We're offering protection to those who want it, and alliance to those who share our values. There's a difference." "The Terran Protection Compact," Admiral Kim suggested. "A defensive alliance where each member species retains sovereignty over their own affairs, but we coordinate military response to aggressive threats." The concept was presented to the assembled delegates, who embraced it enthusiastically. Species that had lived in fear for generations finally saw hope for lasting peace and security. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Wu reflected on how dramatically the galaxy had changed in just 3 months. The Krogar Empire's collapse had created a power vacuum that was being filled not by another aggressive conqueror, but by a cooperative alliance of peaceful species. Later that evening, Wu stood on the observation deck of the Luna facility, watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. The blue world that had given birth to humanity now served as the capital of an interstellar alliance spanning dozens of star systems. Admiral Kim joined her at the observation windows. "Hard to believe, isn't it? 6 months ago, we didn't even know other intelligent species existed. Now we're responsible for the security of half the local galactic region." "Do you think we're ready for this?" Wu asked. Kim was quiet for a moment, considering the question seriously. "I think we're as ready as anyone could be. We didn't seek this responsibility, but we're not going to abandon it. Too many species are counting on us." Through the communication system, they could hear reports from across human space. Fleet patrols were being established throughout the Terran Protection Compact. Human engineering teams were rebuilding infrastructure on liberated worlds. Medical missions were treating populations that had suffered under Krogar rule. "Sir?" came the voice of Communications Officer Park from the control center. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the outer patrol squadrons. Unknown vessels approaching human space." Admiral Kim and Ambassador Wu hurried to the control center, where tactical displays showed the approaching ships. The vessels were of a design not seen before, clearly belonging to a species that had not yet made contact with humanity. "Are they hostile?" Admiral Kim asked. "Negative, sir. They're broadcasting standard peaceful contact protocols. They're requesting permission to enter human space to discuss alliance terms." Ambassador Wu smiled as she realized what was happening. Word of humanity's victory over the Krogar and the establishment of the Terran Protection Compact was spreading throughout the galaxy. Species that had remained hidden were emerging from isolation, seeking the protection and alliance that only humanity seemed willing to offer. "Grant them permission to approach," Wu instructed. Schedule them for a diplomatic meeting. It looks like our galaxy is about to get a lot more crowded. As more alien ships appeared on the sensors, Admiral Kim reflected on the path that had brought humanity to this moment. It had begun with a desperate alien distress signal and a single human decision to help strangers in need. Now that decision was reshaping the political structure of the entire galaxy. The Krogar Empire had ruled through fear and violence, keeping peaceful species cowering in isolation. The Terran Protection Compact offered something the galaxy had never seen before: protection without